Exactly.
Somehow you sound British. I don't know why.
You sound like Miss Doubtfire.
Yeah, Mrs.
Oh,
hello, boys and girls. Eugenia Doubtwater here.
Testing, this is Christie. Testing, this is Morris. I'm testing, this is Paige. I don't know.
Why am I an old crone? Like, what is happening?
Testing, this is Chad.
Oh, hey, that's pretty good.
Wow.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Have you thought about going into acting, like character acting? I imagine like a little pig,
was
like,
great.
hey, everybody.
Hey.
Wow.
Hey.
So much.
Chad and I are never going to get anything done anymore on the podcast. It's just going to be
It's
voices.
going to be voices.
Well, golly.
Well, golly gee.
Hi, Miss Piggy.
Wait, that's already copyrighted.
Oh, gosh.
What other snacks are green, y'all? Cucumbers, jalapeno chips. What other snacks are green? I need more green pickles.
Are you doing your grocery list right now?
No, I'm picking up some snacks for my children's council. Because that's after I leave here, I'm running over to West for my children's council. And I was like, it's St. Patrick's Day. I should show up.
Green things.
So cucumbers, jalapeno chips.
Are you just giving I'm just imagining like you're doing this, kids.
Pickles?
We're giving them all green things. Here's jalapenos, kids, and
I know.
enjoy.
I made pesto pasta last week.
Oh.
And I was like, I should have saved this for St. Patrick's Day. 'Cause it was
You
like,
just made my dinner for tonight, Christy.
There you go. There you go. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do that.
I like pesto pasta.
No,
Pesto
my
pasta is so
kids
good.
can have it again.
No.
Fine.
Well, that could be our sponsor, Pesto Pasta. When you need pasta, put pesto on it.
Brought to you by Arby's.
Oh, yeah.
Arby's pesto pasta.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Next Day podcast.
The next day on your discipleship journey.
This did start off as a sound check, but I was like, let's just go right into it.
I'm just wondering how many of the voices you got.
Almost all of them. Maybe not the very early ones. Sorry, everybody, but it was great. This is podcast gold. But hey, this is Chad.
Like a pot of gold.
This is Chad.
And this is Christy.
And we're joined here by
Morris.
and
Paige.
Yay! It's very rare that we have 4 people on. And and we actually have 3 people who actually did the sermon. We'll let y'all guess on who did them. On the podcast, you'll see like someone doesn't know what they're talking about.
Oh, man.
Actually, every time I've been on the podcast, it's been with 4 people.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's
'cause
true.
You've been on with
Alyssa, and then now with Morris. So.
This is the first time you get your own microphone, though, so...
That's true.
yeah, 'cause
I was
before
sharing
you
a
had to-
microphone with you last time.
Yes,
My microphone
yes.
buddy.
which I will say, speak directly into
the
mic.
microphone?
There you go. That's
Will
so
do.
much better.
Aye, Captain.
Yes. So we are so glad that y'all are able to join us here on the Next Day podcast. We're going to be talking about the sermons that you got to hear on Sunday. So if you haven't listened to them yet, you can listen to them on the YouTube channel. Look up our church's YouTube channels. I think you can just find them on, where is it on the new website? It's podcast
It's under
and
sermons and podcasts. But also if you go to watch live, it'll just take you to the YouTube page. So lots of ways to access it.
Yeah, so you can do it there or just listen here on the podcast. We'll have those up for you, and you can listen to Morris over at Traditional. This is his last sermon he's doing.
Correct.
I know.
Yeah, that was it.
You can listen to me at The Element, and you can listen to Paige over at West Campus.
Yay.
Yay. It's an all-star Sunday.
It was.
Yes, I think so.
It was a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah.
3 of us think it was an all-star Sunday anyway.
4 of us think it was a great Sunday.
The people in this room decided it was great.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Some people said it was the best ever.
It was the best of times. It was also the worst of times,
I wouldn't push it, brother.
And also, I want to say a happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody.
That's right.
All right.
And a happy birthday to Pastor Pat.
And
exactly
happy
right.
birthday to...
Although you're not wearing green. Are we going to have to
Is
wear
that green?
That's not green. That's
green.
blue.
That's
That
one
is
of those
blue.
debatable
That is
blue
teal.
That's a
Blue.
teal.
That is-
Listen,
This
my
is not-
daughter
That is a
went to
blue
school
teal.
in a teal shirt today, claiming it was green, And for the sake of her not getting pinched today, I believe it's green.
Except
totally
she's
green.
going to get pinched today at school.
I like how you probably pinched her when she got out of the car.
She does have green earrings on though.
Oh,
I'll give her
okay.
some
Oh,
green
that's
earrings.
cute.
As long as you have a little bit of green on you, then I guess that counts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so happy birthday, Pat. I sent him a picture, and it would look like this nice kind of coconut type cake. But and it was like very beautiful with white frosting, but in the background you see some mayonnaise.
Oh gosh.
And so he was just like, so he disliked the image after I told him happy birthday.
Wow.
How
Whatever.
dare he?
'Cause it's well known that Pat does not like mayonnaise.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And has doubts about anybody that does like mayonnaise.
I think
That's
so.
true.
Which is the majority of the world. Because
All right, well, let's get to our icebreaker, and since it is St. Patty's Day, I didn't know if I would actually go there or not. St. Patty's Day, I did want to ask. This is going to be the icebreaker question: is because St. Patrick's Day has a lot to do. You hear a lot about luck and type of stuff like things. So, what superstitions do you follow, that you believe, that you practice, that you do? Is there anything that you do that's just kind of like, I know this is silly, but I feel like this brings me good luck? Or I know this is silly, but I don't want to do this because it'll bring me bad luck. Is there anything that you do kind of like that?
we do the whole traditional New Year's Day meal. So we do cabbage instead of collard greens.
And cabbage does what?
Cabbage is for money.
Yeah, wealth and all that.
Yes,
yeah.
wealth. And then I do a pork tenderloin every year because pork, it's all different ways. It's like pork is for health and black-eyed peas. Maybe black-eyed peas are health. I don't know. They're all supposed to be.
Black-eyed peas is health because my grandparents, the one thing my grandmother would do is black-eyed peas and cabbage. And I at least know those. I'm pretty sure it's
so health
and
and wealth. And then pork is also supposed to be good luck. And then if you make cornbread, which I just learned this year, it's gold. So then you not only have like green wealth, you have gold.
Ooh.
I didn't know that
I
before.
need to eat more corn at New Year's.
Cornbread specifically.
I think Christie and Morris are struggling here.
It's got to be sweet cornbread. If it's not sweet cornbread, then
So are you a Jif girl or a Corn Kits girl for cornbread?
I think Jif.
Good.
Hey,
I grew up on
Jif,
Corn
not
Kits,
Jif,
and when I
Jiffy.
moved down...
Jif. When you need cornbread, eat Jif.
Isn't it Jiffy? It's Jiffy.
No.
Jif is the peanut butter.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It is Jiffy.
Yeah.
Jiffy. When you need cornbread, you get Jiffy.
I grew up on Corn Kits in Dallas, and then when I moved down here, my Cajun in-laws were like, "What are you doing?" And they introduced me to Jiffy, and I will say it's better.
I don't know. I have bought mine the last several years from Trader Joe's.
I will say
great.
those Jiffy boxes
Are
have
we
not
shocked?
changed.
No, not
Jiffy
at all.
boxes have not changed since I was like a kid.
No, they're the same boxes as the
old-fashioned
1950s.
looking boxes. Anyways,
What do you?
any
what do you
superstition
think?
with y'all?
No, I don't have. I can't think of actually a single one. I mean, we do eat black-eyed peas, but I only do it because my wife fixes them because she says, "Oh no, we've got to eat them." But I'm like, come on. They're black-eyed peas. I do have a good St. Patrick's Day story that I can tell.
Ooh.
All right, tell that.
So do you want me to do that?
Go for it.
So
Go rogue again. Here he
going
goes.
rogue.
He's going rogue.
Well, my wife and I lived for a year in Northern Ireland, and I served a 3-church circuit there. And one of the churches was in a city called Downpatrick, which is the burial place of St. Patrick.
Oh.
And so on St. Patrick's Day, they have a parade there. And we were all excited about attending the parade in Downpatrick, because we figured, wow, this will be great. So sure enough, here comes the parade, and it was like just these 2 or 3 bands of bagpipes and drummers and maybe a couple of floats, and they came by, and I mean, it literally took like 2 or 3 minutes, and it was over. And we turned to our friends, and we said, "Is that it?" And they said, but it'll come back around to make it last longer. And sure enough, they did. They came back around.
So you saw the same parade.
The same parade. They
It's
came back
hardcore.
around to do it again. And that was the parade in where St. Patrick was buried.
The most American thing ever that we have such giant parades here, but where it actually counts, they're like, no, it's just some bagpipes. And we're just gonna it's fine. We gotta like make
ready
it
for,
big.
Well, we gotta get a good parking spot, like Macy's Day Parade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was great.
Oh, that's
it was
funny.
Great. Yeah.
Anything, Christy? Any superstition?
It's not a superstition because it's a real thing.
Oh, here we go.
Okay,
Here we go.
There we go.
I don't do anything for it. I just have like very strong beliefs in like the moon phases and the effect on people.
What happened this week though?
The blood
The
moon.
blood moon.
Yeah.
The blood moon.
Yeah.
So what happened? What superstition? Or what do you
I didn't
know
have any
about
superstition.
That?
I don't
Okay.
have any superstition about that.
Okay,
No,
what
but, like,
belief
okay, so there's
happened with the
nothing
blood
about-
moon then?
What belief?
Well, because you said it's not a superstition.
Oh.
Is it good luck to donate blood under the blood moon?
No.
I don't know. I mean, the
No.
blood moon. The Bible says some interesting things about the blood moon, but that's all. We'll see. But the full moon, people act crazy.
Yeah, we said that last time. Yeah,
I'm a firm believer. I'm like, this is not superstition. There is proof,
Now,
scientific
Paige,
evidence.
In
of
our
this.
last podcast, Christy was upset because the full moon was going to be during spring break when she had to be with the kids all day. Did anything happen?
Which date was the full moon?
It must have been
I think it was like
Thursday?
Thursday, but it was funny. We took my kids to my parents' house on Thursday. So
you're
I was
just-
gonna
here
say
y'all go. Y'all take 'em.
Kennedy and Oakley were giving Miss Susan a rough time on Thursday. So I mean, looking back, I could say, oh yeah, they were a little out of sorts that day, but I don't know that I like personally noticed anything. Oakley just was trying to act like she didn't have to do anything. And
I also like feel it in me. Like it's not just the kids. Like I'm always like, okay, I need to like be cognizant of my reactions to things. Like I feel more sensitive. I feel more just like I'm feeling the effects of it. But it always ends up being like the full moon, like same kind of thing. So I'm like, I don't know. There's something to it.
Your beliefs are out of this world. So
They truly
I
are.
know. I know for me, other than like, I'll sometimes just think, oh, I'm just going to jinx this, kind of a feeling of like, oh, if I'm so confident about something, it's just going to go wrong. Other than that, one thing that Sable and I have always done is I don't know if y'all have heard of this, at the beginning of the month, like the first thing you say when you wake up. And
No.
Now, I think there's different variations of it, but for us, you say rabbit, rabbit. When you first thing you wake up on the day one. Have y'all never heard of that?
reaction.
I've never heard of that, but I'm also like,
I've heard of other people
how
saying,
do you know that it's the first of the month? Like the second you wake up, I'm just like, what year is it? When
Oh,
you're not aware of
Christy,
the
some of us
calendar?
live and die by calendars.
Yeah.
I just like on the, like when you wake up in the morning, you're like, it is like, March 1st or whatever. I mean, I can't do that.
Because and what it's supposed to be is like good luck for that month. And so we try to take it very seriously.
But you have to say rabbit, rabbit.
Yeah. And there's times I've even seen it trending on like online. Well, there'll be like
Not like Lord bless you, but rabbit, rabbit.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be some variation of rabbit. Sometimes it's white rabbit. Sometimes it's other things. But I'll see that trending sometimes at the beginning of months because other
Do y'all
people
like
would
race
do that.
to like say it first?
No, but we hopefully remind each other because there's times where like I may wake up and I go, my head hurts, and then she'll go, rabbit, rabbit. I'm like, dang it, no, I messed it up. And then it's like, well, I won't have good luck. But it's just something we just do and just for fun.
That is that's an interesting. I've never heard of that, but I love the.
You're not on camera, Elizabeth.
She
It's
was trying
okay.
to not have the door clicked.
Say
Oh,
hi,
it's okay.
Elizabeth.
You did so good.
Elizabeth Booker just snuck in, gave Morris his Smoothie King, which is also our sponsor. Smoothie King. When you need a smoothie, go to Smoothies
When you
King.
need
Jiffy
bunch of
cornbread,
mashed up
Smoothie
fruit.
King
blended together
with some
Smoothie King.
sugar.
All right, I think we've talked long enough. Let's get to the good stuff.
That was a bit long.
I don't know. That was probably our best intros and all that.
We'll see when the listenership just drops off after 5 minutes.
Yeah. But let's get to talking about the sermons. And I don't know why I'm doing this. Chrissy, you didn't do the sermon. You
Let's
should
get
be
to
hosting.
hey hey everybody, I'm your host.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey.
Oh, well, you just gave it away that you gave this other sermon.
Oh,
yeah.
You were
he already said
guess
it. Oh, yeah.
who? I
Oh,
guess,
yeah.
yeah.
He already
I did.
said it. Yeah, I know nothing. So tell me everything, guys. So Chad was in the Element. Paige, you were at West. Morris at Traditional.
That's right.
We talked about our second feast of this series, which was the Feast of First Fruits. And tell us about Tell us about that. And this was also a special Sunday for Paige, right? This was your first sermon.
It was my first sermon.
Yay!
First sermon to ever preach.
Your first sermon and Morris's last sermon.
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
Don't
here
say it
at
like
St.
that.
Here at St. Peter's.
Not
Here
ever.
at St. Peter's, I guess.
Yeah, jeez. But yeah, so let's talk about it. For Feast of First Fruits, what did you learn? What are some things, high points from the sermon, things you hope people took away, or maybe stuff that you ran out of time to talk about but would love to bring up here?
Well, I just want to say, like, I listened to both of y'all's, and I know y'all listened to mine, right? And so I listened to. They look around, the eyes like looking.
Crickets.
But I listened to both of y'all's, and y'all got like applause. Like y'all had people clapping and all that. Now,
Okay, to be fair, I had people clapping when I said we were doing a charity drive
Now, I will
for new
say-
chairs at West.
I will say the new chair thing is like what got like. It's amazing how many people are in agreement of that.
So what's funny is when I did my big fat Greek wedding joke at 9 a.m., that's where I got tons of laughter. I mean, from the people that were in the room. Laughter, whatever, and applause there. Not anything really on the chairs. 10:30, people were like, big fat Greek wedding? What are you talking about? But then they're like, chair!
It's so funny, the service differences.
Oh,
yeah.
There's like, it's just night and day. But, you know, in the element,
in Elmas, you get one shot.
in one shot,
shot.
yeah, one service.
Did the
It's
Eminem
always
song
great.
just pop in my head when you said that?
Yes, yeah.
But Morris, I know you also like the end of yours. You got you got really deep and it got really emotional. At least me listening to it at the
Oh,
end.
because
And
you
so-
shared a story, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, like just in general, Feast of First Fruit. What was it about? What do we think? What were some of our main topics that we talked about?
Take it away.
I try to keep in mind what Rabbi Steve, the leader of the Messianic congregation that meets here on Saturdays, like he just kept saying the whole point of this is to keep yourself in right relationship with God. Like God is first always in all things. You know, he mentioned like, you know, if people in the congregation, if their wives have a tough pregnancy and then the baby's born healthy, the first thing they're supposed to do is to go do an offering. And that's been that way for, you know, millennia. And so that was kind of where I was trying to bring that focus in, because I think sometimes we just lose sight of the fact that God's first in all things.
Yeah, because it is because what the instruction is in Leviticus
23.
23.
I think you like looked at me during the sermon and were like, Leviticus? No.
Probably. I probably had it written down, but I was like, I don't believe that. But yeah, like it says before you, so go out and harvest your crops. All right, so do that. But then it says before you do anything with them, and I think it even said like, have you ever wondered when it says don't even eat an ear of it? Is that like even it raw? Like
Yeah, like you're not allowed to
like,
touch this new
don't
crop.
bake it,
Yeah.
don't cook with
Yeah.
it, don't even
Right.
eat it raw. Like you need to bring it to the temple. You need to bring it to a priest first.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like this whole thing of like give thanks to God first. Don't neglect that, because how easy is it to just be like, well, I grew all this.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm our people, like our family, like is the one who harvested it. So what you know? But it's like no, don't forget all that God did for
Well,
you.
and it's like that's just it. Like you tended it, you know, you nurtured it, but God grew it. Like you know, it's like that's one of the most fascinating things to me about gardening. It's one of the things I love. Why I think it's such an easy spiritual practice is it's like you literally once you put that seed in the ground, you water it, you put it in the sunlight, you try to feed it the nutrients it needs. But at the end of the day, like I can't do anything to make that thing grow. Like I just can't, you know, like the magic of that can only come from God, you know? And I think that's at the heart of the first fruits, right? Is just like turning back to God, like you said, reorienting everything back towards God.
Yeah. Morris, anything from
Yeah,
about
I
this?
mean, what I picked up on, I mean, there were just one of the things I figured out about all these feasts is they are so layered with meaning, every one of them, and it's really kind of a matter of just which one you want to pick up on.
It's not just oh we do this. Well, why? I don't know. We just do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
It's
layered with meaning,
Yeah.
and the thing I picked up on was that it's not. You know, it's tempting to say it's all about food, and at one level it is, but the Feast of First Fruits is about a wandering people having a home where they can, you know, literally and figuratively put down roots and plant seeds and be there long enough to see it come to harvest.
Yeah.
And giving thanks to God for that and making an offering before God of that. And
because up to that point, I mean, they were free from Egypt. They've been wandering the wilderness. I don't know how long they've even stayed in one place at one time, but not long enough to do crops.
Yeah,
not long enough
subsisting
for
on
that.
manna and quail. I
Yeah.
mean, that's,
And so now they're actually able to stay put and do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I assume y'all made barley jokes, didn't you?
Oh,
I did not.
I
I'm sorry.
did.
Chad, he credited you.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
I could not pull off your jokes,
Now,
Morris. And
I didn't
pass
do
them
as
off
many as you did, because you did like
It
3
kept
or
coming.
4
It
or
kept
something.
coming. It wouldn't stop. I had no control.
I kept waiting for you to just somehow toss in like a certain song and you go, oh, that's by Barley Manilow. And
Oh
it's
my
just,
gosh.
I kept waiting
Yeah,
for that to pop up.
That's
and it was
next
like,
level,
yeah.
I think.
But no, I did do the, because Paige, you got us some sheaves.
Yes, I did.
And so you got us some of grain, and then we were able to use that. I was able to use that as a prop and show that to everyone. And I told them like, really this is wheat, but unless you really look closely, you can barely tell the
That's
difference.
when he said that.
Yeah.
He did. Chad had us all. We did like a exercise routine. Really, we got up. He had us all stand up and grab something. I grabbed a jacket, and and a lot of people had their bulletins. And this is like on the live stream, and it's great. Have I already taken a screen grab of it? Absolutely.
Oh, really? I was wondering if the people doing camera were like actually gonna.
No, they
zoom
didn't.
out.
They didn't zoom
Okay.
out, and I was bummed because I wanted to see the whole room. We were all standing up, and so he's like, "All right, so you wave it. We faced east, waved
Yeah.
it to the east, and then we turned to the south, and we wait, and we did it all the way to the sky, to the earth, just like the rabbi told us about, and it was great. And then we sat down, and I tried to clap at that point.
Oh, okay.
But I was like, I feel like I'm clapping for myself. Like,
I just did a good
this.
job.
I did it. It was just like fun, Like you just want to
Yeah.
like clap at the end of something that was kind of fun. I'm like, when do we stand up and like wave things around during the
We're
sermon?
gonna do some calisthenics right now. Let's get up.
It was great. It was great.
Yeah, I found out yesterday that what I thought was east was actually more I was off by about 45 degrees, I think.
So you were like
didn't
northeast
count.
or southeast?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It didn't count.
And so, and I didn't hear about it till after both services were over.
Well, of
And
course, because nobody's going to tell you in the middle,
Yeah.
which you're like, come on, then I could have changed.
Did you try to orient yourself using I-10? Like,
Yes.
I-10? Yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
what
That's
Chad
what I
did
did.
too.
No, and I did that, and I was like, okay, I-10's this way, and so east is, and then I heard someone said I-10's not that way.
James
I'm like,
Schuler. That was
I'm like,
James
yes,
Schuler.
it is. It's 100%.
Call
that
him
way.
out. Yeah, I was standing next to him, and he was like, is I-10 right there? And I was like, yeah, I-10's right there.
Yeah.
But I'm directionally challenged,
Well,
so.
I figured when I was going to ask, because I asked people, who knows where east is? Some people just naturally I don't know what it is. In their head, they're just like a
Some of us
compass.
had our dads like beat that into our brains
Yeah.
forever. I can tell you north, south, east, and west all the time because that's like that. But I
No,
was to
north
know
is
directions.
always
If
in
my
front of
phone
me.
failed me, if the map failed me, I was to know what direction I was going. Because if you know your directions, you can always find your way home.
How do you know? Like, could you sit here and just be like,
I mean, north is that way.
how do you know that?
Because I-10's that way.
Yeah, but also like it's just that way, and then east.
I
south,
have to
west.
use roads.
I can't
have to
even
use
like,
roads
right
and-
now I'm like, where am I facing? Where am I in the world? This
You're-
is the same thing. Like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, what year is it? How old am I, Mom?
Oh,
She
he's
is
using
right.
his
You were
app.
dead on right.
Yeah, Morris, you got
It was a
compass
thing.
app.
Like we didn't. I can now drive. Like I now know where your house is because I drove there the one time to pick up the sternos from you at Christmas. I have no idea what your address is, but I can now forever drive to your house.
Man, that is.
It's just like the way my dad built my like mental brain map of driving. It's the directions I got.
Yeah. All right. Well, we know what your superpower is.
That is a
You know
superpower.
where
You don't
everything-
want me to be your navigator, that's for sure.
All right. Well, what else? So, what else do we do? Maybe a little different in our sermons, because I know we all three kind of like touched on some maybe different things or highlighted different things, things like that. Well, I mean, I'll just say like even preparing for this, The thing that I was the most curious about and so confused about was when exactly the first fruits happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it just, it was kind of vague when you read it, because the scripture in Leviticus 23 comes right after it talks about observe the Passover, unleavened bread. So it comes right after that. And then here's the section saying, go out and gather the harvest and then bring it to them, and they'll wave it on the Sabbath after unleavened bread. And so my question was always like, well, when exactly is it? Christie was telling me it's probably after all the unleavened bread, which is like a whole week. But the way I read it was like, oh no, it should be like the Sabbath during it, right? But I don't know, it's confusing. And then
But it's
Rabbi
actually like a
Steve,
special Sabbath day after the actual weekly Sabbath during Passover.
yeah, because also like unleavened bread is also like it's a time of rest also. So don't just go out and do your typical work. But I guess they do go out and harvest it during the first fruit. And so I was always confused. But it really is like there's Passover. Then that's also when unleavened bread begins. And then a couple days later is going to be the Sabbath. And then that next day, which would be like a Sunday for us, would be first fruit, would be when you recognize this.
Yeah, so a few different articles I read by people far smarter than me. They were saying basically in preparation before, like while they're cleaning their houses and they're getting ready for Passover, the harvest is also like ready. So they are going to do that like harvest and then they're waiting. So that's part of that waiting. Like you can't eat it, you can't cook it, you can't do anything with it until you can bring that offering to God. So it's like, they might have done that on like Tuesday. Passover starts Wednesday or, whatever day of the week, because it's all based on the lunar cycle. But like they're doing that in that preparation.
They're probably like really hungry and they could barely stand it.
See?
Hey-o.
It just begs for it.
Yes, it does.
My brain doesn't work that way. I love it so much to listen to y'all though.
No, her brain is more focused on north.
Yeah, she's thinking about where north is.
We're going to be stuck out in the woods going, barley.
Oh, man.
We just come up with jokes.
So Chad, you talked a lot about, because I heard obviously you in the element, about just like trust was one of like, that was like kind of your big takeaway was like trusting in God and how like this feast, this festival really speaks to that, right? Because it's, you connected this to tithing. And I mean, he even said in the middle, he's like, I'm not going into like a whole,
no, Carl didn't set him up to be like, give me all your money for chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is like, I'm not going into like a stewardship thing here, but it's like, it's just so obvious. Like you can't ignore it. Like this is obviously the tithe, they're bringing in the tithe. And I loved just like, you posed this really, big question. I mean, like a potent question to the congregation of like, are you giving God your first and best? It's like, are you giving to God instead of like just, okay, well, I'm going to do all these other things and whatever's left over goes to God, or, like it's not necessarily the best. It's just whatever's left, and that's, I think the way that, if you are someone who gives, regularly, there's like the two thoughts around it. It's like there's either those who think of like the best and the first, and then oftentimes our culture has kind of shaped us to be like, well, yeah, I'll toss a few bucks in the offering plate or whatever,
Yeah.
And so it's such a good question, and it really is like it's a holistic question. It's about every area of your life. Are you bringing your first and your best, like, to God? And it's out of this act of trusting God that, God is going to provide. That was part of the first fruits. Like, God's going to continue to provide even when you're giving the first of what you have to God, that God's going to continue to grow more in your life, that God's going to continue to provide in that.
Yeah, and I could have stressed a little bit more. I did throw it in there, like even your time. Are you putting in, like, are you making that like your first? You're making it a priority. Like I am dedicating this much time to God, because in my head I keep thinking about. I understand like that families can be very busy and all that, but like I've known some families who will be super involved in sports, super involved in all these things, but they say, no, if there's a tournament on a Sunday morning, we're not doing that. Because our dedication is we're going to
Right.
church. Like, and they'll
Or you're
tell,
at least not going until after maybe that 8 a.m. game. Maybe they're not going to go until the
Yeah.
1 p.m. game or whatever.
and they'll tell the team and all, like, no, like this is a sacred moment for me and my family, and so that was always like, and I'm not trying to guilt any, because I understand that sometimes we have to adjust stuff, but it was something that I've seen where they made that was their priority.
Right.
That was their like, we've made this. We're not just going to go, oh, we'll show up to church when we have time. It was like, no, this is the time we will show up.
It's this place where you like draw the line in the sand culturally and
Yeah.
socially and say like, this is sacred, you know, and that's what that you're setting that apart. That's what God does with holy things, right? Is sets them apart. So we're called to do that too. And I think that's exactly right. Like just naming first, like we will worship together as a family. We will, go gather with our, worship assembly, whatever church, whatever, wherever that is, but we're going to do that. We will do that, every week. And, or like I will spend time in prayer every day. This comes first, right? It's so, I think that our culture has flipped that totally around.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
All right. Well, what else with y'all's? I know both of y'all shared some very, very personal stories, and it has to do with kids and all that, and being parents and all that. So, but man, it was just a very, at times, I don't know if heartbreaking, but it's just very heartwarming. I don't know, like the way y'all shared y'all's experiences was very meaningful. And so, Paige, what about yours? Because you talked about Noah.
Yes.
And I want to say, I'm probably not the most familiar with this story with you and your family. And so, thank you for sharing it.
Yeah. It felt right. It is a way that, as Philip and I started having kids younger, we were like 26. So I guess in the grand scheme of world timeline, that's not that much younger, but most of our friends didn't start having kids till their 30s. So we were still very much so in the like setting up our careers, our finances, our home, right? Like we were still very much so in that phase of life as we started bringing kids into this world. And so Philip had Mackenzie in high school. Then we had Lila at 26. And then in 2019, Noah was supposed to be born in September, and we lost him April 17th of 2019. And I knew, which is something I shared in my sermon yesterday, I knew from the moment I found out I was pregnant, I knew something was wrong. And I think the biggest part of like the wandering and all, which is kind of, I talked about like how that was like our wandering through the desert, was just trying to figure that out. Was like our original OB had retired, so the new OB didn't know us and didn't realize that like through all of Lila's struggles, I was like, yeah, no, she's good. I just had a peace, and I just knew. And Philip didn't understand the peace. Because he was so worried about me and Lila that whole pregnancy. And so going into Noah, he was like, but how do you know that this is wrong? And I was like, I can just tell you that like God is just telling me that like something's going to go sideways here. And it did. And we lost our son at 18 and a half weeks. But we have always felt that it is our calling, our way of giving back to God, like our thankfulness for the 2 children we had prior to that loss. And then the 2 children we've been blessed with since that loss, that like we have walked alongside several people. Because it's amazing when you're doing that, you feel so alone. Nobody talks about their pregnancy losses and nobody ever takes care of the dad in that situation. The dads get left behind so much. And Philip was grieving just as much as I was. And so we have made it a dedication of our stories that we will always walk alongside people and pray with and pray for them as they're going through that, because it's heartbreaking. And so that's our first always, is that we'll always walk alongside them through those moments, because it's hard and you feel alone and you question a lot, you get angry, like, why is this happening to me? But that, I think, cemented in our marriage, because it happened, that was 6 weeks into us being married. We'd been together over 4 years, but we were 6 weeks into being married, and we prayed so much in that time. I feel like it also really cemented that like Jesus truly was the like foundation of our whole relationship, and has always put God first in our relationship before that, but then since that too, which is that's why I feel like what kept resonating with me during this sermon was just that it was like, that was our way at the time. We couldn't necessarily financially give much more than a couple bucks, but like we could walk alongside people. We can bring God into those like scary moments for the people we know and the people that we've had other friends bring us people we didn't know who were like, they're going through this and they need somebody to reach out. And so we've gotten to do that more times than we would like to have to step alongside people.
That on our podcast, like how much a lot of people at the church, a lot of people are going through that, and because when we had Shayna on, she shared her story, but it's just like how many other people can relate to that, and it's just always that's always I think a good reminder to everyone, like you're not going through this alone. There are other people here, and I think it's beautiful as a church, and even for you just to share that, because I bet you someone was in the congregation going, I went through this.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me, the older
people with this.
It's a lot of I feel like our generation talks a lot more. That you go to generations before us, and like those are the ladies who came up to me afterwards crying and were like, I'm really glad you shared that story, because I think it also, we know more about our bodies, we know more about why things happen and all of this stuff. And so it just like releases a little bit. I forever carry guilt about the fact that my body couldn't figure out how to like save Noah, right? And that's just that human side of us. It wasn't my choice. It wasn't my body's choice. That's just what happened. But I think you always carry that with you. And so for people from generations before us to hear that like we're walking through this now and like we've done it, it also helps them like let go a little bit of that guilt, which is kind of what y'all talked about the week before in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, is letting go of those things that are holding you back, that are, and so it kind of tied all that together.
I love it how often some of our most meaningful ministry comes out of the most painful experiences of our lives. And, and it just reminds me that, when we go through seasons like what you talked about, it's what are you going to do with it? How are you going to respond? And, and because it can send you in different directions. And for you to respond faithfully and to say, you know what, we can use this experience to help others going through that same thing is just really a wonderful thing. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that, and thanks for your ministry to folks that go through it, because that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we were lucky that it didn't break us, but, that's what we want for everybody, is for God to help keep the glue together,
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
And Morris, you shared a story of, about your daughter.
Amy.
And I'm just curious to know how many teary-eyed.
Oh, I bet there were lots.
How many people were just like
we
reaching
told
for
this story
Kleenex?
And just was like, I think I want to tell this story in my sermon, and just kind of pitched it. Didn't really pitch it, but just told it to us,
right,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there like, oh gosh, it's happening.
Christie's bawling.
It's happening. Chad just brings me a Kleenex box. I was like, don't patronize me.
Which you then threw across the table.
I was like, wait a minute. Don't patronize me. It's like I just try to hide it because, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm an easy crier. I am. But like that was a beautiful story.
So, yeah, I picked up on 1 Corinthians 15. I don't know if you use that at all, where it talked about Jesus as the first fruits of the resurrection of the dead, and kind of connected it with this idea of home and new life. And so I was sort of, in telling Amy's story, I was kind of talking about it in the context of a new life. And the story was that we adopted her from China when she was 10 months old. And her story, part of her story was that she was left at a gas station when she was just a few weeks old, and that's referred to as her finding place, and they keep records of that.
See, that's interesting. I would have never thought they keep records. They keep records of
where they were found,
because I guess it's so widespread that it's just that. It's a common thing. So,
because of the one child law, right? Like that's
So there are a lot of families who give up their children and they put them somewhere, that's their finding place.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, and we always said for years we wanted for her to have a chance to go to China and see where she was from, and all that kind of stuff. And so about a year and a half ago, it all worked out for us to take her back. And it was just an amazing trip. But through the years, whenever I would tell her story and I would talk about the whole finding place thing, I could hardly tell it because I'd get all choked up and, emotional, whatever. And whatever. And because really just the idea of abandoning an infant child at a gas station, I just couldn't.
Yeah.
And it not just an infant child, but my daughter.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
This is your baby.
It's my kid.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so we went and we retraced a lot of the places we went when we went and got her, so she could see those places. But part of the tour included going to the orphanage and then going to her finding place. And so we went to the orphanage, and that was an amazing story on its own, and that's a different story. And then we got done at the orphanage, and we went to eat lunch, and just a few blocks away, we had this lovely lunch. And then the guide said, okay, let's go to the finding place. And so we walked over to that gas station, and it just was so redemptive because we understood the finding place differently after seeing it with our own eyes. Mm-hmm. And we saw the police station right behind the gas station, and we saw that the orphanage was just a few blocks away. And we spoke to the restaurant owner that had been there for 30 years and was in the restaurant when Amy would have been left.
Yeah, that's I thought that was crazy to hear that.
It was just, and he said, oh yeah, everybody knew that that's where the mamas would leave the babies. And sorry.
No.
As Amy said it, she said, I wasn't left there to be abandoned. I was left there so I could be found and have a new life.
Well, I even think how redemptive the name is, that they call it the finding place. They don't keep it their leaving place, abandonment point. They call it the finding place. Right. And so even in the way that they name it, it's so redemptive. And then how redemptive for her that and for you too. I'm sure that helped.
It was the part of the trip I was dreading the most. Turned out to be the coolest part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the preaching point is that for us, the cross is our finding place. And the cross, which is terrible and torturous, it was in Christ, through him and what he did on the cross, it was possible for us to enter into a new relationship with God and have a new life. And
that's beautiful.
So
and that was the thing that I really stressed in my message. It was that they were given these instructions of first fruit before they entered the land, and it was to help them remember that when they enter the promised land, that's not the end of their journey with God. Yeah, because it could be easy, like, oh, this is the finish line. All right, we made it. All right, we're good. It was like, no, this is the beginning. This is a whole new beginning with your journey with God. It could be easy for people to see, oh, okay, well, Jesus' death on the cross, that's the end of that ministry. That's the end of that journey. Yeah. No. This is just the beginning of a whole new beginning. Yeah. And so I'm just imagining with your daughter, like here's this whole new beginning. Like anyone could see, being left there at that gas station, that's got to be like, oh, that's so bad. Like, is that the end of that story? It's like, no. This is the beginning of a beautiful beginning,
redemption.
Yeah. And so that's what I kind of got a lot out of the Festival of First Fruit. It really is this reminder of putting God first, continuing to put your trust in God, knowing that God's still there with you even through dark times and bad times. You just keep moving forward, and God is still there with you in this new beginning in our life. And I did try to tie it back into like our grace series, saying that we experience justifying grace. And we experience it. Wait, like God loves me. Jesus died on that cross for me. God's with me, and the Holy Spirit's working in me. Well, that's not the end of the story. It's going to keep moving you forward into something even bigger and more wonderful, and all that. And so I loved hearing y'all's stories, and that none of those none of these things that happen to us is just the end. It's like,
Right.
no, we're going to keep moving forward.
And the beautiful thing, about this, something that just like struck me when we were learning about all this is just like, again, the timeline in the New Testament and in the gospel story that like it was the first fruits, like the day of the feast of the first fruits, the festival of first fruits, right? That Jesus resurrected. It's
3 days after Passover.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just like this crazy, like beautiful thing that, and I was really, I know, I don't think, maybe none of you guys touched on it. Something that the rabbi had said, and we mentioned last week on the podcast too, just like barley being known as something to make the poor man's bread.
The poor man's bread.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just enamored by
Because they
that.
could barely get by.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
That
Rabbi
is
Steve
more-
had said he's like, God, like Jesus always redeemed and lifted up the poor.
Right.
And so this was his way of doing
Right.
that.
And it's like we were all poor. Like all of us were poor in spirit. All of us needed to be fed, with this bread of life. And it's just one of those things that you look at the whole story and I'm just, it's incredible that like this through line of these feasts all the way through the gospel is just so cool. Like for lack of a better word, it's just so cool.
Yeah, no, I thought that was awesome too, and I talked about that some at the beginning, but didn't get to stay with it actually as much as I might have liked, because I agree with you that there was such power in that, and the idea that when everybody was hungry when Jesus fed the 5,000.
Yes.
I had never picked
Yeah.
up on the fact that the kid had 5
Barley
loaves.
loaves.
Duh.
I know. It's just so, I think Carl's the one who kind of threw that out there.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, and Carl's also the one who connected the point that means that the rabbi, the Pharisees met on the Sabbath of Passover to decide to arrest Jesus. So he's like, on this day where they're not supposed to be doing any work because
Right,
they're
right.
the ones who believe in all the laws, like they're doing it. And I was like, I am not as smart as Carl and could not figure out how to connect that into my general thing. But I was like, this is just awesome.
Yeah, no,
it's
the
good.
whole thing is, is just so, it's intricately woven together, and it's beautiful. Like,
No, and I said this at the beginning is like when I first heard about the sermon series, I was kind of like, really? Like, I don't know what to think about this. Like the feast and all that in the Bible, okay. But then once you start looking at it, it's kind of seeing these tie-ins and all. Because even then, I'm sure I have read that verse in 1 Corinthians before, and I just never really
Never
thought,
thought about
okay,
it.
first fruit. I don't know what that means. Okay. But it's like, oh, wait. And then you learn about what the actual festival of first fruits is, and then it's like, oh, wait. Oh shoot! This is really like connected and wonderful.
God is good.
Yeah.
God provides. God is steadfast.
Yeah, I think I said this before. I'll say it again. I totally agree with you. When before I started with you guys, I'm looking at the preaching plan. I'm going, Feast of the Bible. What? Yes, it's just so wonderful, and it's connecting us with the bedrock of our faith, and it really is. It really is quite lovely, and so it's a lot of fun.
yeah, we're doing a lot of research,
Yeah.
but it's great. I love
Lots
it.
and
I'm
lots of
nerding
research.
out, and I'm
I
loving
know
it.
when Morris, I was talking with him before we started everything, and I think he was just like, "Man, y'all are making me have to write new sermons."
I hate that.
And I was like, "Wait, you mean you don't have a festival of first fruit sermon just in your back pocket, ready to go?"
I think we also want to say thank God for Rabbi Steve.
Oh, so much.
Because that guy is awesome and has been such a help, I think, to all of us.
I keep just calling him the rabbi, and I think like I just will say it offhand.
The rabbi,
like in service or wherever in the element, I'll just be like, "Well, we talked to the rabbi." I'm sure people are like, because we refer to Jesus as the rabbi a lot of times in Scripture,
yeah.
So I'll tell Justin, I'm like, "Oh man, I could just listen to the rabbi for hours." He was like, "You sound like a disciple."
Yeah. All right. Well, that was our second sermon in this series. So continue listening if you want to hear. What's the next one?
Feast of Weeks.
Feast of Weeks.
This is Well, maybe I won't give that part away.
Yeah.
You'll have
It's where
to
you
find
feast.
out.
That's right.
I mean, in my head, I think you're feasting for weeks on end.
Weeks of feast.
Just eating and eating. Okay.
The other way around.
Yeah, it's the opposite of fasting. It's just you just
feast of
feast for
weeks.
weeks.
Yeah.
All right,
Feasts on feasts.
But let's get to our ministry shout out. Obvious one, just another reminder of Church Without Walls is coming up 2 Sundays from now, March 30th. So you can sign up. Please sign up for that. Register for one. You and your whole family can participate in it. But also, we're in the season of Lent. And we want to, and it's all leading up to Easter and Holy Week and all that. And so, Paige, you have something that's kind of special with children's ministry and everything that's happening.
At
Very
West
special
Campus,
over at
yeah.
West Campus.
Yes.
With all that.
So I'll go ahead and shout out that both campuses are still doing an Easter Jam this year. Kingsland campuses will be on Palm Sunday at 4 p.m. But West Campus is doing it a little differently this year. So one of our mission partners is Family Hope Fulsher, and they provide food and help connect people to financial assistance and other things that they need out in the Fulsher area. They're literally like half a mile from West Campus. And they did not realize that we owned the land all around our sweet little building out at West. And so we went to go meet with them because we do First Food Sundays for them all the time. And I think it just radically changed their ideas of what we could partner with together. And their services director, I guess, in a way, has had this vision of a children's festival for a lot of times. But with the food fairs that they do, the other churches are kind of already extending their space to them. So we are getting to use all of our space at West Campus. He was hearing us talk about Trunk or Treat, and he was like, wait. So we are going to have this awesome children's festival from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. this Saturday. So that's April 12th. 11th?
13th.
April 12th. No.
Oh, wait, 12th. Oh, the
Yeah.
Saturday before
Woo, woo.
Palm Sunday.
Yes.
Before-
So Saturday, April 12th from 10 to 2, there will be a really awesome children's festival. They're getting some corporate sponsorships from within the community to help pay for the supplies that are needed there. To do, because they're going to like sell hot dogs and waters and stuff. So their goal of this children's festival, you can buy tickets and go around and play games and stuff. Our ECDC Parent Council is letting us borrow their games from their carnival games from their fall fest that aren't the ones that aren't like super, like pumpkin themed. So it's really cool that we're able to bring different parts of our ministry together, which is really cool. And so you'll be able to go around there. There'll be bounce houses. There will be egg hunts at noon, at 12:30, at 1, and at 1:30. And so it is just going to be really lovely. And their goal is to be able to cover at least like half of a month's cost of providing people with food. They spend about $10,000 a month to provide people with food. So if they could even get $5,000, like that helps them so
Let's get
much.
them 10,000.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and then we were talking about tickets, and I was like, well, I would love for these families y'all serve. They serve around 600 families a month. I was like, I would love for them to be able to participate. So part of what these sponsorships will go towards is so that those families, we do it in our PTA at school when we do like holiday shop, we give little like certificates. So that way the kids don't even realize that like, I want their families to get to come and participate. So they'll get like vouchers for all the tickets. So they'll get to go around and do that at no cost to them. Because if they can't provide their families with food, I want them to still be able to come and have fun.
Yeah. And I'm asking for a friend. The bounce houses isn't just for children, right?
And Pastor Chad, you are welcome to come bounce around
it's for
all
my friend.
you want.
My friend,
Yeah,
my
your
friend was
friend.
asking.
Your friend.
Yeah. All
It
right.
was me.
Yes.
Woohoo!
Okay.
That really got him. He can't even finish.
we gotta do more voices. I think that's what everyone wants. Leave comments.
We'll
on
find
the,
out.
podcast if you want more voices. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Paige, and thank you, Morris, for joining us. And but yeah, we are looking forward to for all of y'all to come and listen to us again next week on the Next Day podcast.
See you next time.